Sziasztok, ez a Kiút sorozat. Ez egy bizonyság és kijelentés gyűjtemény, amely segíthet neked a saját gyógyulási folyamatodban. Ez egy online képzés az elmemegújításról, belső gyógyulásról az eddig megtett utam alapján. Ez nem egy párlépéses program, csupán bátorítás és eszközök egy kiúton lévőtől más kiúton lévőknek, vagy éppen kiútra lépőknek. Hiszem, hogy ami nekem fordulópont volt a helyreállás folyamatában, az neked is az lesz. Jó kiutat mindenkinek!
Hi, as I promised you in the last video, I will talk about my teenage years in this session. In the last session I was talking about my early childhood and first school years and all that happened in those times to me. At school, I was like doing okay. I was under a lot of pressure and performance, but I was feeling okay. I went to a very small forest school, which meant that there were just 10 of us in the school, and we were playing in the forest and in the school breaks, and I really loved going there. And I was kind of celebrated because I was good at most of the things, and I was doing okay. I wasn't still opening up to other kids, like really. I was just kind of surviving, but it was doing okay. And I wasn't like just barely surviving. At times I even felt well. And this is the time when I had a really great encounter with God. There were some conferences in our city, and I talk about a lot about this encounter in the Testimony of My Life series. I had a great time there. I wasn't opening up there either. I just enjoyed this shocking presence of God. Like, at the first time in my life, I felt like Christianity makes sense. Like, people get healed, people get delivered, there are things going on, and I was so excited about it. And I loved going there. I was a bit afraid of the people there as well, but I thought it was worth it. It was worth to bear those people because there was such a great rush of feelings with this presence of God. And I started to practice the presences at home as well. I loved doing those things. And the funny thing is that it was like as if all the bad things have never happened to me. Like, I was so free at times. Like, I went to my classmates' home to pray for their parents, and I was like preaching the gospel on the street on my own at 12. So I was like out of myself. So all the structure of lies and everything built up in me just ceased to function under the weight of the presence. And I don't recommend to anyone to use the presence of God just as a band-aid, just to feel okay. But I think if you don't practice the presence, it's okay if you started just to feel okay. Yeah, it was quite an experience, and I was excited, and I felt like my life made sense, and all of Christianity didn't really make sense before. Like, it was just like, oh, like having outreaches and no one ever got saved, and it didn't really work. We were just Christians because there was no other choice, and I was like, I need to put up with it. It is just talk, and nothing ever happens. And yeah, it was like, this season was like all the workings of the enemy had stopped for a short while. Like, everything that was built up by the enemy in my head just hadn't functioned for a short while. And I tried to go to church, the church of my own choice. I was 12, so I started to like attend different churches. I tried to find people who were similarly minded, and I couldn't find them. I tried to attend youth group, but it was like really, they were not as passionate about God as I was. And what I felt like, it is because there's something wrong with me, not because there's something wrong with them. Now I need to worship all the time, and I couldn't understand why the others don't feel the same. So I already had these glasses of like, there's something wrong with me, so I interpreted all the happenings through that. And there were like a few people who were kind to me at church, and I'm really thankful for them. They were the only connections for me with life. But in most cases, I couldn't connect with people in church either. So this great passion for God didn't really help me in my journey with opening up and relating to people. And it was sad, but I didn't know how to change this. I wasn't aware of what was going on with me. And it was a time when there were these conferences over and over again, and I felt great, at least when I was worshiping. And I became very passionate about worship because that was the only place where I could feel well. And it felt like as if this thick layer of dark fog covering my whole life would have just opened for that short time, and I became addicted. Sadly, these conferences weren't organized after a while, and I became very lonely again. And what is even worse is that I had to change school, and the other school was like really big, with a lot of people, with a lot of broken people from terrible families, and they abused me a lot. Like, I was like sometimes beaten, sometimes thrown to the wall and pushed, and I remember once the girl was using needles to spike my skin. That's what she was doing all lesson. I don't know what was going on. And that was the time when I was really obsessed about worship as well. So I just bought an MP3 player because that was the cool thing back then. And I just closed up. Okay, people are bad. I don't want to do anything with them. I'm gonna have my own world. And yeah, that was my flight. That was my escape. And I felt that this place is really bad for me, but in some way I felt like that's what I deserve. Like, I didn't feel like they were abusing me. Some way I felt like they were treating me just right because I am less than human. I'm less than them, so they can do that to me. And it's okay. And it wasn't a conscious thing. In some way, I didn't feel like standing up for myself because it wasn't contradicting what I was thinking about my head, the way they treated me. And I felt that it's bad. And I thought to myself, I need to survive this. And I was crying after school, and I felt that I'm not doing that well, but I can't do anything, so I need to carry on and survive. This is only 2 years, the last 2 years of elementary school, so it's gonna be fine. And I really felt like God was with me even at that time. But I think it was very bad that I didn't get out of this place. I know that there is a freedom in God, that kind of freedom when you are happy and forgiving, even if people are like murdering you and beating you and do terrible things to you. So I believe in that freedom. But also when you are not able to perceive the situation with that freedom due to previous like hurts and pains, and you just feel like getting even deeper down this spiral of lies, then the best thing you can do for your mental health is to leave that situation, that relationship, that place, that workplace, that school, because a very complex thought patterns of lies and dysfunction can be built up in your brain if you are in an environment that always confirms these lies, always offers proofs to those lies through the events that happen to you. So it would have been great if I had left, but I didn't. By the end of this school, I was like absolutely rejecting all people and all kinds of relationships, and it made it even more complex that I was a teenager, and as a Christian girl, I knew I wasn't allowed to do anything a teenager would do, like no boyfriend, no dating, no parties, no hanging out with friends, no coming home late, no bringing friends to my home, and so on. And you can even kill those desires with a large part of your personality. So you can come to the point when you don't even feel desires for those natural things, but you don't feel desires because you completely destroyed an essential part of your person, and that's why you don't even long for those things. And that's what happened to me. So I wasn't like really craving for those things. I just felt like I can't do anything anyway, so I'm not allowed to do most of the things people do, and I don't even try to. So I wasn't even rebelling. And at grammar school, I was really good again. I was performing very well, but I was under way much more stress. Like I remember feel like suffocating when thinking about like going to grammar school. And they didn't abuse me there at all. No bullying, nothing. They even loved me. I was the best. Everyone copied my homework. But I was really frozen. I could communicate with people, and it was always the thin facade of I'm okay, just to build up a good appearance so that no one would feel the urge to come through that facade to meet me and what's going on with me. So I was trying to build up a social face as well, like have a minimum of communication with others so that no one would get suspicious about me. And it worked very well. I was the best at school, and no one ever thought about that I might be suffering. And yeah, it worked quite well. I was suffering inside. No one ever noticed it. At times I was like outrageous and angry and aggressive, but it only happened at home. And my home was also quite broken. My parents weren't as healthy and weren't that healthy either, and it wasn't that spectacular the way I behaved. So they weren't suspicious either. And what they thought that, oh, our daughter is a teenager, we need to be patient with her. And I don't know whether they could do much for me, because if anyone had sent me to a psychologist or to therapy or to anything, I would have felt offended and I would have closed up even more. So I'm not sure you could have helped me at those times. And yeah, so I was going down deeper and deeper in this spiral of I'm hiding, I'm putting up a facade that is very thin but functioning, and I live behind it, and I'm about to survive. And that's the point of the day. I need to make through the day, and if it's done, I'm great. It doesn't sound like life, but for me it was the way I could do life. And that's how much I'm gonna share of my story. We are gonna continue with the bottom line and the turning point in the next session. What I'm gonna share about is some lessons from this season of my life, which is that no matter how dark it looks like, God has always been with me. And for a long time I was thinking about this season like a blackout, like a black hole, like it could have been deleted, like it's just something that no one should think about. And that was the point when Jesus literally took me back to that school. And there was a vision, but I can say it like simpler. It happened in my imagination that Jesus has taken me back to those places and shown me how much he was there, and he was protecting me, and he was already planning how to deliver me and how to break those cycles that made those things possible, and how he will turn these things to good. And he also gave me another perspective on what have happened, but in many cases we relived them. So it's just, I imagine the situations happening completely differently. And I felt like he is rewriting my memory. It's not like I don't remember that there were wrong things going on back then, but the whole pain of it and all of this is gone. And I can laugh at some of those stories, and I can feel the love of God about them, and I can think about it, and I became grateful and happy that God wasn't leaving me back then. And I had a psychologist teacher in this very bad school before grammar school, and she was paying special attention to me when I was like weeping because I had to do a group work, and I was so afraid of people that I couldn't do group work. And she was just giving me other tasks, and she was so kind. I couldn't really open up to her because I didn't know that what was going on was bad. I thought that's who I am and that's what I deserve, the way that people treat me. But so I couldn't let her close enough so that she could actually help me. But she was helping me the best she could, and I'm really thankful for her. So God was just not leaving me in any of those situations, and I know that, as I shared with you before, I know that blaming people never helps, but it was a great point for me when I realized that what was going on is not good. Actually, it's not what I deserve. Like, if I knew who I was and how much I am worth, like, I would have stood up for myself, but I didn't know who I was. So I thought that what they do to me is what I should get. And the fact that I wasn't blaming and I wasn't angry was not the result of forgiveness, but the result of a very low self-esteem. And it's not the same. And actually, it was a point when I had to realize that, okay, what was going on is something to be angry about. And not to keep the anger and the unforgiveness. I'm not promoting that. But to actually realize that it wasn't good, it wasn't fair, it's not what I deserve as a child of God, is a good point you should make. And of course, blaming others and keeping resentment and unforgiveness is the worst thing you can do. But realizing that that's not things should have happened is a key thing. Because if you don't feel anger because you feel you actually deserved this abuse, is one of the greatest lies of the enemy that really sets you up for other abuses. Because if you have this attitude of victim and you always behave like, oh, you can do that to me, it just empowers the abusers. And this is what has happened to me. So I believe this rewriting of memories can happen even with the most terrible memories. And probably we are gonna do an exercise about it in another video. But you can practice with it on your own, like imagining Jesus entering the room and being there with you during those bad times, and just see how he thinks about you, how he reacts to you, how he's planning the best things about how to deliver you from that, and how to change your mind, and how to restore you, and just see him how much he's protects you the best you allow him to do so, and just see yourself not alone in the whole process. But we can do an exercise of rewriting the memories together, and I can't wait to do that, and I'm very excited about what is going to happen to you when you do that. But I'm gonna lead you, but I think it's better if you do that on your own with Jesus, and he can really make it for you. Yeah, so I believe that you don't need to live under the burden of these traumas and memories, and Jesus is well able to rewrite them and show you his version of what has actually happened. And I know it's gonna set you free. Have a great way out. Köszönöm, hogy megnézted ezt a videót, remélem, hogy áldás volt számodra és kaptál belőle. Ez a képzés teljesen ingyenes, a forgatásnak, gyártásnak vannak költségei. Ha ezt reálisan valaha végig gondolnám, akkor azt mondanám, hogy ez olyan 15 000 forint per fő, per képzés áron tudna igazán jól működni. Nyilván ez egy sok részes sorozat lesz. Ugyanakkor szeretném, hogyha mindenkinek elérhető lenne, és lehető legjobb minőségbe keringene itt a YouTube-on, úgyhogy arra bátorítalak, hogy amennyire indítást érzel, olyan mértékben járulj hozzá ennek a költségeihez. Minden elérhetőség és támogatási lehetőség a leírásban lesz elérhető.